in beautiful states of being, it doesn't matter what happens, you're going to find something to enjoy and appreciate. And you and I both have interviewed people, I'm sure you have, that are born with no arms or legs, or they've lost their sight, or whatever, and they're happy.
Yes.
And then you meet billionaires or people, families, they got beautiful kids, beautiful husband, beautiful wife, and they get miserable over anything. I really believe you have to make that's the most important decision of your life, is that no matter what happens, I'm going to live in that state. And then you have to do the work, which is, I got a 90-second rule. When I get pissed off or frustrated, suffering comes up, it always shows up. But what I decided is, within 90 seconds, I kill it. Because in that suffering state, I'm not going to be there for my wife or my kids. In that suffering state, if I solve it, I'm going to be miserable even though I solve it, right? I realized I would give away my happiness so easily because, look, I got 1,200 employees plus in 18 companies on multiple continents in multiple industries. Right. What are the chances that today somebody's going to screw up something? 100, it's 100%. And so I would be like, oh, I was so happy. And then John did this, or this person, what were they thinking? Or he opened the door in the middle of the interview, or whatever. There's always something, right? And so I decided that's the shit that's going to happen. That's part of, having multi-billion-dollar companies in lots of industries. So I'm going to enjoy it. And when something doesn't work out, we'll learn from it, we'll grow. It's all small stuff, right? You don't sweat the small stuff, it's all small stuff. So I've really experienced in the last year, that's probably the greatest growth for me, is not letting that suffering last and calling it suffering because it's inconsistent with my identity and probably yours as well, right? So I'd never do that stuff, so I don't. And I call a spade a spade. Pissed off is suffering, worried is suffering, stressed out is suffering. And so if I know it sounds esoteric because we're doing this in 2 minutes. I usually take people now through like a day of experiences where they uncover this. I ask people, if I asked you, what are 2 of the most magnificent experiences of your life so far?
The first 2 things that came to the top of my head was visiting a third world country and building a school for kids and seeing their joy and being in that experience. And then 2 others was achieving a dream of being an all-American athlete when I wanted to early on, when I worked for it for so long, and then also, not to pitch myself, but writing a New York Times best-selling book and having a dream and creating that dream. So,
and then now there's a pattern to those examples. I'm not just listening to the content, I'm listening to, tell me what you felt. What did you feel when you helped build that school?
Incredible joy. It was like I was able to give, I was able to use what God had created for me to give back and support other people. And that contribution, that service for me was a major thing to see what I was capable of doing for so many other people beyond myself.
And when you became an All-American, what did you feel?
I felt a sense of, well, actually the first time I was an All-American, I was really happy and then I was really sad. I was really upset because I was driven by anger to prove people wrong that I would become it. So I made it happen by this willing it and this commitment to like proving everyone wrong and all the people that screwed me over, like, here's why you're going to accept me and why you're going to love me.
And it didn't work completely.
And it wasn't fulfilling.
No.
It was for a moment, and then I was like, this sucks. What's the point of this?
So you just so beautifully demonstrated what I want to get across. Whenever we have our highest experiences of life, 2 things are involved. Some form of growth within ourselves and some form of contribution beyond ourselves. I could ask 100 people, as I've done this with thousands, and they always tell me something where they faced the fear, overcame something, but also in doing it, it benefited their family or benefited somebody else, or like what you did with the building. Whenever I ask people the worst experiences of their life, they will tell me something, and it was all about them.
What happened to them?
So one of the reasons you valued that experience is there was growth in that experience to become the All-American. But because you did it all just about you, it wasn't fulfilling.
Exactly.
That's when I say, life's not about me, it's about we. And that's also why when people are suffering, it's always because you're obsessing about yourself. You're obsessing that something happened and now you have less. You think you have less. Or something happened and you've lost something, lost love, lost money, lost significance, lost attention, lost something. Or because you did this or said that, or because I did something myself, I'm never going to have something. Lost less never are the sources of suffering. And when you say, no, I'm suffering because my children aren't doing well. No, you're suffering because you failed your children in your mind. It's about you still. When you get that all suffering is obsession with self, you can snap out of it, and all you have to do is stop expecting and start appreciating. You look around and appreciate things outside yourself, the people around you, your friends sitting across here, anything of that nature, and then starting to enjoy something. If you start to learn or grow from that, if you love, which to me is an action, if you love, if you give, if you're grateful, suffering disappears instantly. But you have to tell yourself the truth. The only suffering is in your mind. It's because this brain is not designed to make you happy. It's 2 million years old. It's designed to make you survive. Happiness is your job. And happiness is a decision, and it's a daily set of practices. And the difference for me from before, if you said, do you have a beautiful, magnificent life? I said, are you kidding me? I mean, it's like, I have this incredible mission. I work with millions of people. I have this beautiful family. I love my wife. I'm physically strong and healthy. But it's like a business. If you measure the business annually, you feel good about the business, but you're going to have some bad years. If you measure it monthly, the worst you're going to have is bad months. Daily, when I take over a company, turn it around, I find usually a dozen elements of that business, and I'll measure them 5 times a day in the beginning. Because the more you measure, the better you can adapt and change. And I make everybody have to focus on it. Well, what I've done with this area of my life is, instead of saying, is my life beautiful? Of course it is. Or magnificent? Of course it is. I now measure it moment to moment.
Wow.
So if I feel that suffering, that frustration, that whatever's coming up, I go, this is the mind. I breathe in my heart. I find something I can appreciate. I become entertained by the experience and go, you know what? I'm gonna live in a beautiful state no matter what, because not everything can I control. And the things I'm most upset about, they're fleeting anyway, most of them.
Of course, I love it. One final question. Before I ask it, I want to acknowledge you, Tony, for everything. When I was 16, I told you this last time, when I was 16, my dad got me and my mom a ticket to go watch you in St. Louis at a big arena.
Yeah.
Actually, Donald Trump was speaking there. Larry King, who I just had dinner with recently, was speaking over over TV.
Yeah.
And
by video, by Skype.
Yeah, by Skype or whatever it was then.
Yeah.
This is 20 years ago or something. And I never heard about you before. My dad said, you got to go do this, because I was going through a lot emotionally. And I remember listening and watching and I was more inspired by like the football coaches that were there and the athletes. I think Jerry, yes, he was there. I think Jerry Rice might have been there or something else like that. And I was more interested in that.
Yeah.
But at one moment you walked on stage, you walked up next to me, and stood there. And I don't remember what you said, but I remember the way you made me feel. The energy, you were a catalyst for possibility. And I want to acknowledge you for creating that in me, but so many people around the world, for just being the catalyst for the next level.
You're very kind.
Yeah, so
I'm really glad that was there. I'm really
it was a great moment.
In your eyes at that day.
It was a great moment. I didn't know that I would be doing, a lot of similar things that you're doing. I didn't know where it would lead me, but it helped me in my sports and my relationships and in high school and college.
That's awesome.
From that moment. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And the last question is, who in the world right now is the definition of greatness for you, and what is that definition?
Gosh. There's so many people. I mean, my dearest friends, Mark Benioff, Steve Wynn, Peter Guber, Paul Tudor Jones, are all great. And what makes them great to me is they're not only extraordinary, the best in the world at what they do, but they are all givers. They're all, Paul Tudor Jones created Robinhood. It's the largest, most effective foundation. He's given away like $1.2 billion, I think, so far in New York City for people. But he doesn't just give it away. He's invested in getting the outcomes and the results, like a person doing investments. He wants to make sure the result happened. I was in San Francisco recently. I'll give you somebody who inspires the hell out of me. I think it's great. I read in the San Francisco Chronicle that there's a group of nuns in the Tenderloin district that are being evicted. They feed the homeless, and they're being evicted because the man wanted to sell the property. He found a loophole and he's evicted. So they literally have no place to go and no money, and they're going to be homeless themselves. And I'm like, in a town full of billionaires, how has this not been handled, right? So I flew in, I went and met the nuns, and I said, let me work this out for you. I said, I'll find the leverage with this man. And I went to find the business owner, and I said, instead of making him wrong, I go, I'm a business owner. I could see you want to sell your building, but you're pretty dumb if you do it right now. I said, you're going to get hammered by the media. So why don't you and I make a deal? I'll give you a year's worth of money for them in advance at the higher level you want, and you let them stay for a year, and my promise is I'll get them out within the year. I'll provide the resources to get them out. So I was going to just lease them a place, help them get everything going. And then I hung out with these nuns for, a day and a half. And then I had a million conversations with them by phone constantly. And these women live in a 200 square foot little room with no windows. And all they do every day is get up, make the food, and love these people. And I mean, love them. They don't just like feed them, look down on them. They love them. I was so inspired by them. For Easter, I went and bought them a soup kitchen, right? So they have their own soup kitchen now. No one can ever evict them. Everything is set. But I talk to them all the time. They call me up, they call me Mr. Tony. Mr. Tony, I tell you what's going on today. And they inspire me. Their greatness. Someone that commits their life to something greater than themselves is great. And someone who can achieve and give, I think is unique. And I love those people. I know that most people, I'm not dumb. Most people are not happy every day of their life. They're not physically fit. They are not financially free. And they're not in a relationship where they're really passionate. Most people aren't, but a few are. And I'm obsessed with finding the few who do and figure out what makes them different than everybody else and then teaching that.